Okay, now I want to talk about the books of Enoch, and chapter 73 talk about the moon. And after this law, I saw another law for the lesser light, named the moon. So, which means the moon has its own light. Okay, the MSM it says that the moon doesn't have light. It's the moon's light is the reflection of the sun. That is false. Okay, and its disk is like the disk of the sun, and the wind blows its chariot on it, on which it rides, and in fixed measure light is given to it. So let's see. Um, Here it says that the sun and the moon is a disk. It's not a ball. Okay. And every month is rising and setting change, and its days are as the days of the sun, and when its light is uniformly full, it is a seventh part of the light of the sun. And thus it rises, and its first face is towards the east, and it rises on the 30th morning. And on that day it appears and becomes for you the first phase of the moon on the 30th morning, together with the sun in the gates through which the sun rises. So you need to understand like each chapter and then each point. Each point is related to each other, but within each point is a completion of its point. So the light is seventh part of the light of the sun. So it's not as bright as the sun, right? Okay. And then the first phase of the moon begins on the 30th of the month, which is the end of the month, the 30th, and then the first of the month, right? That's the first phase. All right. And a half, I don't know why they skipped that, with a seventh part. And its entire disk is empty, without light, except for a seventh part, a 14th part of its light. So this is empty, which is the new moon, right? No light. First phase of the moon is the end of the month into the beginning of the month, the next month. So 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 it's the dimmest light ever at that point. And on the day that it receives a seventh part and a half of its light amounts to a seventh and a seventh part and a half. Next point, it says with the sun, and when the sun rises, the moon rises with it, and receives a half of one part of light. And on that night, at the beginning of its morning, at the beginning of the moon's day, the moon sets with the sun and is dark on that night in 6 and 7 parts of and a half. So the sunrise and moonrise together. And it rises on that day with exactly a seventh part, goes out, recedes from the rising of the sun, and becomes bright on the remainder of its days in the other 6 and 7 parts. So we will go back to it to explain that. So, chapter 74. Another journey and law, and I thought of it as I saw for it, in that according to this law, it makes this monthly journey. It's a monthly journey. And Uriel, the holy angel who is leader of them all, showed me everything, and I wrote down their positions as he showed them to me. And I wrote down their months as they are and the appearance of their lights until 15 days have been completed. So, like I said on the video last week, the 15 days, which is the 15th of the month, because they're talking about the month right now within point 74.2. Okay. In the 7 parts, it makes all its darkness full, and in 7 parts, it makes all its light full. In the east and in the west. So it looks like they divided into 7 parts when it's full darkness, and then 7 parts at when it's light full. Okay. Let's see. And in certain months, it changes its setting, and in certain months, it follows its own individual course. In 2 months, it sets with the sun. In those 2 gates that are in the middle, in the third and in the fourth gate. So they go through from the east to the west, and then there are gates for them to enter and exit. It goes out for 7 days and turns back and returns again to the gate from which the sun rises. And in that gate, it makes all its light full, and it recedes from the sun and comes in 8 days to the 6th gate from which the sun rises. So, talking about the gates, when we need to understand which gate to which, it's better to draw the picture of how it goes through. So this is I will do in the later days, because right now I just want to clarify the moon phase. So chapter 73 already clarified the moon phase. The first phase is the beginning of the end of the month, which is the 30th, right? So the first of the month will be the continue of the first phase, is the 30th into the first day of the month. The light is empty, right? The moon is empty, which is new moon, no light. Okay. So then I forgot which one I stopped. So I will go from chapter 74.7. And when the sun rises from the fourth gate, the moon goes out for 7 days until it rises from the fifth gate. And again, it returns in 7 days to the fourth gate, makes all its light full, recedes, and comes to the first gate in 8 days. And again, it returns in 7 days to the fourth gate from which the sun rises. Thus I saw their positions, how the moon rose and the sun set in those days. And if 5 years are added together, the sun has an excess of 30 days. For each year of the 5 years, there are 364 days. So it's 364 for 5 years, not 365, not 365. And the excess of the sun and the stars comes to 6 days. In 5 years, which 6 days each, they have an excess of 30 days, and the moon falls behind the sun and the stars by 30 days. So, which means an extra day, extra month, right, for the moon because the moon falls behind. And the moon conducts the years exactly, all of them according to their eternal positions. They are neither early nor late, even by one day, but change the year in exactly 364 days. So, which means each month supposed to use the moon cycle to count, not the sun cycle. It's because right now we're using the sun cycle, the Gregorian calendar, which is glorifying the sun god, and which is they refer to Satan, right? And that's why the vampire child was crowned on the very first day of the summer. In 3 years, there are 1,092 days, and in 5 years, there are 1,820 days, so that in 8 years, there are 2,912 days. For the moon alone, the days in 3 years come to 1,062 days. And in 5 years, it is 50 days behind. And there are 1,770 days in 5 years, so that for the moon, the days in 8 years amount to 2,832 days. For the difference in 8 years is 80 days, and all the days that the moon is behind in 8 years are 80 days. And the year is completed exactly in accordance with their positions and the positions of the sun, in that they rise from the gates from which the sun rises and sets for 30 days. So I believe that's why this is we need to calculate the numbers. Again, we need to draw like a map to understand exactly how it goes. Chapter 75. And the leaders of the tens of thousands who are in charge of the whole creation and in charge of all the stars, and also the 4 days which are added and are not separated from their position according to the whole reckoning of the year. And these serve on the 4 days that are not counted in the reckoning of the year. So originally it's only 360 days, and then they add 4 days, so that these 4 days and these serve on the 4 days that are not counted in the reckoning of the year. And because of them, men go wrong in them. For these lights really serve in the stations of the world, one in the first gate, and one in the third gate, and one in the fourth gate, and one in the sixth gate. So it's gate 1, 3, 4, 6, 1, 3, 4, 6. And the exact harmony of the world is completed in the separate 364 stations of the world. For the signs and the times and the years and the days were showed to me by the angel Uriel, whom the Lord of eternal glory has placed in charge of all the lights of heaven, in heaven and in the world, so that they might rule on the face of heaven and appear over the earth, and be leaders of light, day and night, the sun, the moon, the stars, and all the serving creatures who revolve in all the chariots of heaven. Likewise, Uriel showed to me 12 gate openings in the disk of the chariot of the sun in the sky, from which the rays of the sun come out, and from them heat comes out over the earth when they are opened at the times that are appointed for them. And there are openings for the winds and for the spirit of the dew, when they are opened at their times opened in heaven at the ends of the earth. I saw 12 gates in heaven at the ends of the earth, from which the sun and the moon and the stars and all the works of heaven go out in the east and in the west. And there are many window openings to the north and to the south, and with each window at its appointed time sends out heat corresponding to those gates, from which the stars go out in accordance with his command to them, and in which they set according to their number. So they have a number to assign to them. The stars. And I saw chariots in heaven running through the region above those gates, in which the stars that never set rotate. So the chariots in heaven, the stars that never set rotate. The stars rotate. And one is bigger than all the others, and it goes round through whole world. So who is the biggest star? Let's see. Chapter 76. And at the ends of the earth, I saw 12 gates open to all the winds, from which the winds come out and blow over the earth. 3 of them open in front of the heaven, and 3 in the back, 3 on the right, and 3 on the left. And the 3 first are those towards the east, and then the 3 towards the north, the 3 after this towards the south, and the 3 in the west. Through 4 of them come winds of blessing and peace, and from the other 8 come winds of punishment. When they are sent, they bring devastation to the whole earth, and to the water which is on it, and to all those who dwell upon it, and to everything that is in the water and on the dry ground. And the first wind from those gates, called the east wind, comes out through the first gate, which is towards the east. The one that comes from the south brings devastation, drought, heat, and destruction. So the south wind is all about punishment, right? And through the second gate, in the middle comes what is right, and from it come rain, fruitfulness, prosperity, and dew. So the winds come from the right is for nurturing, rain, fruitfulness, prosperity, dew. And through the third gate, which is towards the north, comes cold and drought. So the north wind is cold and drought. And after this, the winds towards the south come out through three gates. First, through the first of the gates which inclines towards the east comes a hot wind, and through the middle gate, which is next to it, come pleasant fragrances and dew and rain and prosperity and life. And through the third gate, which is towards the west, come dew and rain and locusts and devastation. And after this, the winds towards the north, from the seven gates, which is towards the east, come dew and rain, locusts and devastation. And through the gate exactly in the middle come rain and dew and life and prosperity. And through the third gate, which is towards the west, come mist and hoarfrost and snow and rain and dew and locusts. And after this, the winds towards the west, through the first gate, which inclines towards the north, come dew and rain and hot frost and cold and snow and frost. And from the middle gate come dew and rain, prosperity and blessing. And through the last gate, which is towards the south, come drought and devastation, burning, and destruction. And thus the 12 gates of the four quarters of heaven are complete, and all their laws, and all their punishments, and all their benefits I have shown to you, my son Methuselah. Chapter 77. They call the first quarter Eastern because it is the first, and they call the second the South because there the Most High descends, and there especially the one who is blessed forever descends.